A lot of my subscribers have been asking me to test lots of different games on different Macs, iMacs, MacBooks, that kind of thing. Hugo Fernandez has been asking me to basically test out Ark because Ark has been updated, and he wants to know whether Ark will run good on his laptop. So the thing is, I've done I think like 3 or 4 different update videos already. I've tested Ark Survival on the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro. I think I might have tried it on the 12-inch MacBook, and I've also done it on the Dell XPS 13. I'm going to do an in-depth testing on Ark Survival to see whether this update has really changed the performance, because every new update you can expect the game to run a little bit better, and so that's our goal here. We're going to see if you can play the game, whether it's enjoyable, how much FPS there is, and all that kind of good stuff. So let's take a look and see how good the game works. Alright, so here we are loading into Ark Survival, and we're in OS X right now. So a few things I noticed. The boot up time in the game is really quick. So first thing you're going to want to do is pretty much make sure everything's on low. At least that's how I did this particular test. I wanted to see if it ran good on low first before I bumped it up to anything. So here we are. I'm going to join a 46 out of 70 player server. I mean, let's face it, most of the time when you're going to be playing, you're going to want to play on a server that actually has people, so that's going to make a lot of sense. Okay, and that was about 2 minutes of wait time. So now we're in the server. So I've tested Ark before in the past, and it ran kind of okay. Not that great. It actually runs worse. That's right, you heard me. Ark Survival runs worse on the MacBook Pro than it did, I think, like a month ago when I first gave it a shot. It's really, really buggy and laggy. As you can see, it's super choppy. I think we're getting like 7 or 8 frames per second. I wasn't able to find any applications that show the FPS timer, and also for whatever reason Steam's integrated FPS counter wasn't working either, which kind of ticked me off. But yeah, Ark Survival is a pretty awesome game. It's very similar to Rust, and you know, I was walking around and I was like, why is it so laggy? Like, I really felt like there was a setting that I forgot to tweak. So there's the level of detail that you can decrease, and that just like makes things less detailed in the area. So I figured, well, if I do that, then that should pretty much make it work. Okay, and so after the settings were applied, it still lagged really bad. It almost was if it didn't matter what I did, it would lag really, really bad. There's a special setting called like resolution scaling, and even that was set pretty low. So the low resolution of 1280 by 800 was more like 800 by 600, and it still just runs terrible. I think it has something to do with the game not having good optimization for draw distance. So a lot of games that have big open worlds, like Rust for instance, Rust was really bad. You could almost not play Rust. Now Rust is playable on low to medium graphics, which is really impressive. But what they did is they optimized the things that are further away, so they don't take up as much RAM and video memory and that kind of stuff, and it just runs good now. And I'm not sure what's going on with Ark. In fact, I'm not sure why a more updated version would run worse than the previous version. That's just blows my mind that it's that bad. So just to prove to you guys how bad it looks, look at that. I zoomed in the camera a little bit, and it's so blocky looking. I mean, if it was Minecraft, this wouldn't be so bad, but it's just god awful. So here I am just kind of running around. I'm trying to see maybe the performance is going to improve while I'm playing, and it looked like it didn't, so that sucked. Anyway, we booted into Windows, and now we're going to take a look with the ultra low memory mode, extremely low memory mode. We're going to open it up and want to see how well that works. Make sure anytime you're in Windows that you boot in this mode, because the other modes are pretty much not playable. So one thing that they did, like I said earlier, increased was the load times. The load times have gotten better. I did notice that. It literally only takes about 1 minute to 2 minutes at the most to get into a game just pretty impressive if you think about it. So let's go ahead and see how all this runs. All right. So here what I'm doing is I'm showing you guys the load time. I want you to know how long it takes to load. Okay, so again, that was about 2 minutes or so. Actually about 1.5 minutes. So first thing I'm going to do is take a look at the graphics here. Make sure that everything's set on the lowest base, and then we're gonna progressively put it up higher. I'm gonna try 1680 by 1050. We're gonna also try 1080p, and we're gonna try medium and high graphical settings, and maybe even extreme graphical settings as well. So let's find a good server here. Connect to that. All right, now we're in. I skipped it because it was gonna take about probably a minute. All right, so we're in the game, and as you can see, it's running a lot smoother than the OS X version. It still runs kind of bad. In fact, it really kind of looks like the performance maybe wasn't really changed. I mean, it feels smoother than what you see on the FPS counter. It says like 25, 26, 20, 28. But it feels smoother, and that's kind of what's important. The FPS counter is one thing, but how fluid the game actually feels is another. Like games like Rocket League, for instance, FPS counter is not that high, 28 frames, but it feels like it's 35 frames. That's what's important. So let's run around here just a little bit more before I change the graphical settings. But what I can tell you is it seems like even though lots of time has passed, the game really hasn't progressed that much. Like you'd expect. I mean, I would want it to get better, kind of like Rust, for instance. Rust is made by a smaller company, just like Ark. So you'd expect things to get better, substantially after every couple of months. You'd think it'd be a lot better, but not in this particular case. Another reason why the FPS might not be as high is because I'm kind of in an area that has a lot of buildings as well. So I know that's not going to help out. So let's take a look at the graphics real quick, and I'm going to see what we can change here. Okay. .1680 by 1050, so at about 15 FPS. Alright, now we're going to try 1920 by 1080. So the question arises, can you enjoy the game on the lowest settings? That's more of like a personal question. I know that if it's at least 30 FPS, for the majority of the time, you can enjoy it. And I can safely say that pretty much to anybody who's playing a game. But in this particular case, if you're under 20 FPS, and if you're getting close to like 22, 24, that's tough. That's like a decision you're gonna have to make on your own, whether you want to try to play the game or not, because it's gonna be really laggy when intense moments happen, like battles. When you enter an area that has like a really big building or like a castle, it's just gonna lag. Like when I was looking up there, I had like 13 FPS when I was looking in a more like complex housing area. So it's a personal choice, but that's kind of the thing that you have to realize with Ultrabooks. Anytime you have an Ultrabook, most likely you don't have a video card. Now there's other Ultrabooks you can get out there that are pretty good, like the Dell XPS 15-inch. It's a 15-inch Ultrabook that actually has really good graphics, 960M, which will only cost you $1,200. So that's pretty amazing. There's a ZenBook, which for around $1,000 you can get a ZenBook with a dedicated 940M, but it'll be a lot more thin. It'll be pretty much just like a MacBook Air, but it'll have a dedicated graphics chip, which will help you run this game at around medium graphics. That's another laptop I really wanted to get, because I do like the MacBooks, I do like the Dell XPS, and I'm really eyeballing the ZenBooks, because I know that they're going to have a lot of really good potential for gaming. So again, Ultrabook gaming is just, it's a crapshoot. Like, you really don't know whether the game's gonna run or not until you just play it and test it out. And anytime there's an indie developer, I pretty much tell people, don't expect much. Me personally, I always just get kind of mad and I say, well, you know, they could have optimized it for integrated. But the thing is, the integrated graphics people they're thinking about you last, because there's people with gaming rigs out there, and they're the majority that's going to be playing this game. So Ultrabook gaming, it's picking up, but it's not as good as it could be. So there we go. I just turned the anti-aliasing off, trying to make sure that it's gonna work, trying to see whether if that had a big effect. It didn't really. You know, it seems like none of the settings you're gonna change are really gonna be like something that's really gonna help you. They all give you like an extra 1 or 2 FPS if you're lucky. So you have to tweak settings as a whole. It's really not gonna be like one thing that you can change to make it better. Which to me, you know, I'm not happy about that, but that's just the way it is. I was checking out the graphics here, and it looks really good on medium to high. It's like, wow, look at this. Like, the bricks are like all like nice and 3D looking with really nice shadows. Funny thing is, I still haven't played Ark Survival on my desktop iMac. I actually have a iMac 27-inch. It actually just broke on me. You won't believe it. And I had a week's worth of videos on there. That this is actually why I haven't released videos in the last couple of days, because my videos are lost and the computer's in the repair shop. So, but I got an iMac 27-inch with the 780M graphics, and it runs pretty much all my games on high graphics, which is pretty sweet. I really wanted to play Ark, and I still haven't had a chance to play it on a good system yet. So I really want to start doing some gaming videos for the iMacs as well, because they're really nice. Anyway, so in conclusion, I can tell you that this game has not progressed. It's really not going to matter what graphical setting you run the game at, unless you're running on like this lowest resolution possible, 800 by 600. This guy's freaking hilarious. He looks so funny. Oh my goodness, I laughed so hard when I saw him. But you have to run the game by pretty much 800. Like right now, I'm like on lowest res, lowest pretty much everything. You have to run the game on lowest to even enjoy it remotely. So that's something you can do there. Another solution that you can get if you have a Thunderbolt connection, or if you have an HDMI connection on your laptop, is you can get an external video card that connects to one of those ports. It would only cost you around $200, but you can get yourself a video card that'll be as good as a desktop graphics card, which for an additional $200 really, it's really not that bad. I've had probably like 4 or 5 people tell me that I should make a video about this, and I think there's probably a pretty good chance I will, just because I think it's a really cool idea to just be able to connect, a video card to your computer and just boost your graphics. So the two ports is the Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is the proprietary port that's on the MacBooks. You can find them on the Dell XPS and a couple other areas, but Thunderbolt is great because it's really powerful and fast, and it can do video as well, which is why plugging in a video card in there works. If you have an HDMI port, which you probably do, not all MacBooks are going to have that, but with HDMI, you can essentially do the same thing. So just plug your video card right into there. Pretty freaking awesome. I'd say stay tuned, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing that really, really soon. I want to thank you guys for watching. I tried to make this video more thorough than my other videos, just because it seems like the videos aren't very thorough. And so I'm trying to find ways to keep you guys on here and to talk about things that matter more. So what I did is I showed you guys the graphical settings. I showed you 1920 by 1080, 1680 by 1050. I showed you the other resolutions and the other graphical settings. Long story short, it doesn't really matter what you do on Ark. It just isn't optimized yet. A lot of other games are. This game isn't. And it's okay. They're an indie developer, so gotta give them some time for that. If you enjoyed this video, I highly recommend that you subscribe and help me build a better channel. I'm always taking your guys' feedback, and I love the YouTube community. Take care.